7 lines from the bottom. 8 lines from the bottom. The line begins with what hakatzuv.
Are we called in?
I called you?
Okay.
Yep. So the Rebbe explains that neshamis are different. Neshamis, Yisrael, and Torah and Mitzvahs are of a different make, of a different ilk than everything else in the world, including Malachim. Everything in the world, I said, including Malachim, is what's called a ha'ora. They're extremely bright and extremely conscious and sensitive, but that's it. That's what it is. It's sensitivity. It's their functional element, the ha'ora. The neshamis are an essential and godly reality, and this is why the neshamis are capable of tolerating a gilui, or a sense of truth that is not within the worldly parameters. Hakatzuv, may not necessarily be fully comprehended. This will be the Osid Love, but nevertheless they tolerate it. They recognize this in and they tolerate it. Something of a different a level of reality than what the world tolerates. And as we explained many times, and yesterday we discussed it, what can world tolerate? World can tolerate only that which has a logical process, progress. I can understand this result because of this cause, and so forth. That is tolerant. It may be extremely great, but nevertheless that's something I can relate to. But when you say there's a gilui l'maylo mechei hakatzuv ve'elam hatachtin, how can you relate to it? That completely nullifies your sense of coordination, sense of reality, and yet neshamis are able to relate to it. Why? Because they have they have a reality that's beyond what makes sense. I got the reality. As we explained yesterday, very briefly, that the Osid Love, they will be able to the masik in holokus, and we explained holokus and world are as far apart as anything can be. And a very simple principle: world, everything in world has to have a source. Holokus, it has no source. Motzurishu. We can't even express, or even, so to speak, think of it in those terms, but that's the reality of Holocaust. What's it? Okay. So now at the end of that line that begins with the word hakatzuv. V'harei hamalachim. But then behold the malachim. Einam yichelim mekabel. They are not capable of accepting gilui yoser, a greater gilui mechoig hakatzuv lahem, than the portion that is defined for them. Cannot. When malachim see something higher than their than that which makes sense to them, they dissipate. And this is true throughout, overall, in all worlds, and all worlds, going to the highest world. That in every world, specifically, there is its measure and its limit, and that is what permits this world to be what it is. And they are capable of accepting, of tolerating a higher Gili a Gili Oyer of a higher caliber. Neshama is Hareis Vada. By Neshama it's a certainty. Shelefi Oy from Chog hakatzuv. Behagilui Boilam Hatachte. That according to the manner, but there is the Chog hakatzuv, the established norm, measure in the lower world. Meir Bohem, by the Neshamis, shines Gilui Oyer Elyon Yoser, a higher Gilui Oyer. What the Rebbe is saying in this line is something very, very unique. That the uniqueness of Neshamis and the special reality of Neshamis and insight that Neshamis have is such that even when they observe, thank you very much, even when they observe Gili, if even hakatzuv Gili according to world structure, they sense in it a higher Gili. They see through it, and they see a deeper inyan than what meets the eye. This is a phenomenal union we discuss all the time, and to give us an extremely simple, down-to-earth demonstration that we say 1 and 1 within the worldly parameters. 1 and 1 is 2 ones, and the Shomer perceives it as 2. Because it immediately goes to a different level of truth, a different level of reality. And we can very readily relate to the principle that in order to have a minyan, you have to have 10 people. But these are 10 individuals. How do they become 10? You take 10 individual people, get them together, all of a sudden you have a different reality. How is that? And the Shamish can relate to it.
Mitzad the Gile, which is hakatzuv Lamazeh, it's not the reality.
It's a reality. It's not the godly reality. It's a worldly reality. It's limited to world.
So I mean, within the context of the reality of the world, it really is just 1 and 1, and it's only in the Neshamas perceive the deeper level that it really is 2.
Absolutely. Do you think a computer computes 1 and 1 and it says it's 2? What does it mean?
2 ones.
2 ones.
This is higher than just 1 and 1.
Sorry?
This is higher than just 1 and 1. 2 ones is higher than 1 and 1. And then 2 is higher
Why
than...
is 2 ones higher than 1 and 1?
Because it's 2, but it's composed of ones. And 2 is 2.
Yeah, but I'm saying, the concept of 2 as a unit is an Neshama. It's not a world.
I was under the impression that when we spoke about this idea of 1 and 1 and 2, that what we were saying is that the neshama perceives the reality of it, whereas the world does not perceive the truth. The world is concealing over that truth. But it sounds like now we're saying that the gilei hakatzuv le'elam hazeh tachtein, which defines the reality of this world, doesn't really allow for 2. And the fact that
that's right. Can you imagine? If the world were to understand that 1 and 1 is 2, you could not make any kind of calculations. You understand what I'm saying? Any kind of mathematical calculations. You can predict into the millions and billions without any change. 1 will always remain 1. But hey, it's not 1. It's part of a 10. Be'emes, 3 lines from the bottom. Be'emes, in truth, Hare meir bohem oir hatoira. In the shomes actually shines the oir hatoira. And this is again the emphasis of the word be'emes, means to say that on the truth level, not on what meets the eye, on the practical level, but deep down, meir bohem oir hatoira. I want to reiterate something that we said a little while ago, but I repeated it when we spoke about sight, re'iyah, which is truly a phenomenal experience if you give it a little thought, where in an instantaneous glance one can observe, I don't know, tens of miles across, and everything that's in between, everything that populates these 10 miles at a glance. What's behind it? How is this happening? This is not an observation on the worldly level. On the worldly level, you have to see every inch individually. What is Oyer HaTorah? What is Torah unique? Other than humanly perceived rules and so forth. Oyer HaTorah is Reishis Bara Lekim, as the Shemaim says. Everything that you observe is presented to you by the godly creation. You see it from a different angle, from a different sense of reality. Not by observation I see it. I see it because it's real. This is how we can, at a glance, see miles across. Because it is not through our observation that we see it, it's because it's being presented. We see it from the presenter's perspective, rather than from the observer's perspective. This is made of Ham Oyer HaTorah. While they are in this Oyer HaTorah.
Right. So I missed you're giving a mashal to physical sight of seeing the expanse.
Mean what?
What's the mashal is physical sight, seeing the expanse, being able to see for miles.
Right.
And what's the nimshal?
How? No. So how do you see it? What makes it possible for you to see it miles across in one glance? It is not a cumulative sight.
You're seeing the reality, what makes it real.
What makes it real? You see it from where it comes from. Oil, the oil, milmaila. How it's being presented. That is really the reality how you see it. Except it still remains contained within worldly parameters. But in the world itself, you see Oyer HaTorah in everything that you see. In Oyer HaTorah.
You see the physical world not from the world perspective, but from the creator perspective.
Yeah. From the reality perspective. וכן מקבל את הגילויים לגן עדן והגילויים דליוסיד. And likewise, the neshama is able to accept the giluyim of Gan Eden, giluyim deliosid love, the future giluyim canal, and the future giluyim are altogether beyond giluyim. This is what's Asmus itself. Calls that this entire reality, truth is hu lefi shehanshama eino rag haor levad. It is then because the neshama is not merely a haor. It is not merely sensitive. It's not merely a sensitivity. Kiyim hu davar atzmi. It's an essential reality unto itself. And thus, it is capable of accepting gam hagiluyim, kol hagiluyim gam eres atzmiyim. All giluyim, even eres atzmiyim. What is eres atzmiyim? As I said, etzem is impossible to define and to identify it in seichel, because etzem is not, seichel is not etzem. But when we say oires atzmim, we mean oires that are not the result of some kind of emanation. Oir normally has a source, a luminary and a projection. Oires atzmim means a noid that represents in its own reality. In our discussions, we have this illustration. Like I said, you invite somebody for dinner, and you give him everything that dinner consists of. Then you take yourself away from it, and he says, "What are you doing? What did I do wrong? What did I take away that I didn't give you? That I didn't promise to give you?" You took yourself away. Myself always remains me.
How's that an aura? It's not you, that's atzmi.
No, that's oyer is atzmi. Your observation of that is an oyer. This we spoke about. Okay. Basically, I'm concerned the presence of the reality itself. It's
with this, that even the world is interested in what history is going to think of them and so forth. They also perceive some kind of deeper something more fundamental, that just simply what the world is.
Yes, if you really feel that you need to go there, I'll go there. I don't think you're going to have very much to be proud of.
Okay. No.
Isn't R and Atzim two different things?
Yes. But then there is what's called oyer atzmi, the oyer that represents the etzim itself, that is present only in the presence of the etzim. like is illustrated in Chassidus from the story of Rebbe, that he says, I perceive deeper than my Chaveri. Greater than my, why? Because I saw my Rebbe when he was teaching this year. The shir consists of the words that are being taught, not in the personal presence. But I perceive something deeper by his presence. I perceive not what he was saying, but how he himself understands what he stands for. Completely different thing. Zehu, and thus this is what we mean to say when we say Shehaneshama hu davar amiti, that the neshama is a davar amiti, is a true davar. I want to call your attention to a unique way of referring to a yonim from the neshama. This is, you find it. I'm not saying that I saw everything, but when I found this is only in Rebbe Rashab's memory, and particularly in AyinBase. Usually, when you talk about them, you say Inyan Amit. Inyan means an Inyan, a sense, some kind of a true message, a true concept. Dover Amit is a different kind of an expression. Dover means a thing, a definitive thing. That's mean Dover, a thing. The proper way, application of the word Dover is in Gashmis. This is a Dover. This is not a Nin, it's a Dover. You say Neshama is a Dover Amit. Because Neshama gets from Malakus the embers of the key itself. And it becomes a dover. Why is it a dover? Because it is a separate neshama from another neshama. It's a dover amit. Okay, the Isha be always Reb Nosson, Perek Lamed Daled. As it's brought down, always Reb Nosson in Perek Lamed Daled, Asara Nikroim Chayim. 10 are called Chayim, living. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nikra Chayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called Chayim Shenemar, as the Pasuk says, Va'avaya Elikim Emes, Hu Elikim Chayim. Avaya Elikim is Emes, Hu Elikim Chayim. Torah Nikras Chayim. Torah is called Torah's Chayim. Yisrael Nikroim Chayim. Yisrael are called Chayim Shenemar, V'yatem Hadveikim, Chaim, Hashem Elohim, Chaim Kulchem. Chaim Kulchem. Yidden have the union from Chaim inherently in Eitlei. I know, which means to say Shehem, Dovar Amiti, this point to the Inyan, they're Dovar Amiti. The Einam Mizbatlim, they're a true thing, and they're not nullified, they don't dissipate Gili Oyer Elyain through the revelation of a higher Oyer. Adarabah, miskabel, on the contrary, when there is a higher oil, it becomes absorbed within them, and that they are able to process. Okay, this is it for this morning, and we are now prepared for davening.
So there are 7 other things that are also called.
Yeah, it says Chaim. There's 10 things altogether.
So you're saying that davar emphasizes which aspect of it? The word davar?
What davar means a thing,
Right.
not an Indian, just a real presence. Yes. Excused.
When you say
Aleinu, Aleinu, Karasa.